Welcome back. And a huge thank you, listener, for tuning in for Season 1, Episode 5 of The Deep Dive.
We're so glad you're here because, wow, the piece we're tackling today it's really something else.
It is. It's a bit of a departure for us. Not a dense policy report.
No, not at all. This is a deep dive into a philosophical, almost poetic essay. And it manages to be hysterically funny and, frankly, deeply unsettling at the same time.
It's the kind of writing that, holds a mirror up to your digital life and just kind of raises an eyebrow at you asking, seriously, what are you doing?
Exactly. It's so sharp.
So today we are diving into the utterly exhausting and, let's be honest, increasingly mandatory reality of living your life permanently online.
This piece just perfectly captures that feeling of performing your own existence for this, invisible, algorithmically driven audience.
It's like an intellectual gut punch, but it's delivered with the timing of a stand-up comic. It's brilliant.
The source material that grounds this whole exploration is an incredible article on Substack titled Crying, brought to you by Coke.
Such a great title.
It's a perfect blend of absurdity and profound critique, just dissecting the constant demands of the attention economy.
So our core topic today is the comprehensive and utterly exhausting performance of being human in the age of content broadcasting. Every moment is content. Every feeling is a pitch.
It's so true.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because today we're all starring in our own reality TV show, and the script is absolutely bananas.
I love that framing. And the premise of the article is that we have become willing participants in our own surveillance.
Right, and the cost of that is just astronomical.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to distill the key insights about why we willingly keep this cycle of performance going and, critically, to follow the money. Who is actually benefiting from all our immense emotional and creative labor?
It's such necessary investigation. The author makes this really compelling case that we're generating unbelievable value, in terms of data, attention, engagement for these platform owners, all while we run ourselves ragged trying to get a tiny, fragile piece of that value for ourselves.
Yep.
The real transaction is happening, way beneath the surface of the like button.
Okay, so let's jump in. The article opens with this profound and, frankly, slightly terrifying thought.
Yeah.
The Truman Show is real.
Right. But the article insists we're living in a fundamentally different and, I would argue, worse version than the movie.
Worse how?
Well, the crucial distinction it highlights is the shift from being unknowingly observed to knowingly participating. Truman didn't know he was in a show, right? He was the subject of passive surveillance.
He's the only one not in on the joke.
Exactly. But we, the people of the 21st century, we know we're being watched. And what's more, we've internalized the belief that if we are not broadcasting, we kind of cease to exist in a meaningful way.
That participation has become the new abnormal normal.
Totally. And the piece doesn't just theorize about this. It grounds the observation in a very specific, recurring, and deeply cynical anecdote.
The viral conflict video.
Ugh, yes, you know the one. The shaky cam footage, usually in a public space, someone's having a bad day or a confrontation breaks out. The article uses the example of someone filming a service worker who clearly, reasonably just says, "Ma'am, I'm just working. I would prefer if you don't film me."
A completely normal human request.
And that worker's simple request for privacy, for just a little human dignity outside the frame, is met with that devastatingly chilling reply.
Welcome to the Truman Show, biatch.
Oof, it just gives you chills.
Let's just sit with that quote for a second. That level of cynicism. The total collapse of any expectation of privacy is now a weapon.
It's not just an acknowledgement that surveillance exists. It's an active, aggressive assertion that you deserve to be filmed because the world is now just one big broadcast medium.
And the shock isn't the fight itself. It's the normalization of our reaction to it as an audience.
Yeah.
The article points out that when we as consumers watch these deeply uncomfortable moments fights in grocery stores, public meltdowns, our collective inner monologue isn't horror or pity.
No, it's calculation. It's who is right, who will win, who's going to get famous.
That calculation is the core transactional nature of the attention economy at work. We're watching raw human conflict through the lens of potential virality.
We're assessing who provides the best content.
Who is the main character in this scene?
Precisely. The article suggests that conflict is now just another monetizable resource. The success of any human interaction, no matter how fragile or personal, is measured not by resolution, but by visibility and the fame that might follow.
And the fragility of consent just gets totally steamrolled. One person's refusal to be filmed is just run over by another person's assertion of their right to capture content for their audience.
But hold on, I wonder if that's always cynical. I mean, sometimes people film things to expose genuine injustice. Does the article maybe overlook that documentary function of the camera in our pocket?
That's a really good point.
I don't think it overlooks it, but it critiques the normalization of it. The article seems to argue that while, yeah, noble intentions might start the process, the machine, the platform, eventually homogenizes all content.
So a video of injustice and a video of a fight over a parking spot end up in the same feed, judged by the same metrics.
Exactly. The end goal becomes the same engagement. The author suggests that even when filming injustice, we're often still calculating that viral potential, which means we're still primarily performing the role of the director, not the activist.
That's a fair point. The act of filming often supersedes the act of actually intervening.
And the mental toll of this is staggering because, as the article notes, we're not just actors anymore, we're the entire production crew.
The distinction between performer and audience has utterly collapsed.
And this is where the humor of the piece really collides with the crushing reality of digital life. It humorously lists the sheer mental overhead required by you, the listener, just to live your life online.
Oh, this part is amazing. We are the location scout. Moving our coffee mug 3 inches to the left to catch that ideal sliver of morning light.
We're the scriptwriter, spending 20 minutes crafting the perfect, witty caption that's supposed to look effortless.
We're the makeup artist, the sound engineer, the lighting grip, the director, and the editor. We choose the font, the sound overlay, the perfect emojis.
The author just demonstrates the absolute absurdity of requiring this total production role for even the most mundane parts of our existence.
Which brings us to one of the most quotable and painful details in the whole piece.
Oh, I know which one you mean.
We are the stunt coordinator for pouring coffee without burning ourselves.
Just it's so specific and so profoundly true. You're pouring coffee, which should be a reflexive, automatic act, but you have to pour it for the camera.
You're thinking, is the angle good? Am I showing enough of my cozy sweater? Is the steam visible?
And don't spill it. Spilling it would ruin the shot, or even worse, it would make you go viral for being incompetent.
It's this constant choreographing of basic human actions. Imagine the mental energy spent just making sure your morning routine is aesthetically correct and, safe enough for broadcast.
The moment stops being about the hot drink and the simple pleasure of caffeine, and it starts being about the composition of the shot.
And the work doesn't even stop there. We still have to research the SEO title, tag the right communities, publish, and then the final act of this bizarre administrative load, just sitting there waiting for well-deserved praise.
The expectation of praise for a basic existence. That's the truly novel feature of this new abnormal, isn't it?
It really is. We publish our thoughts with this deeply ingrained belief that society, or at least our 37-follower cult, owes us a standing ovation just because we successfully navigated the workflow of hitting post.
The energy expenditure is astronomical.
And the reason we tolerate it, this constant work. The article suggests it's all rooted in this idea of acquiring nice things or getting more money for the feudal comforts that gild our existence.
We see the performance as an economically necessary means to an end, even though the performance itself has basically become our entire existence.
Which inevitably pulls other people or, creatures into the frame.
And that leads us directly into the second section's focus.
Yeah.
The non-consenting participants.
We justify this by saying, oh, it's cute, or it's just a funny moment. But the list of non-consenting participants is staggering. The article says, it's just a dog, a cat, my family, my kids, to people, to other people, to an audience.
The author is so careful to draw that line. We're not filming them for private documentation or personal joy, even though that's what we tell ourselves. We're filming them for others.
The camera becomes this mediating force. It immediately injects an external audience into what should be an internal, private moment.
And the ethical quandary is just. It's right there. Our kids, our pets, our partners, they didn't consent to their reality being mined for content.
Yet they have to participate to make you, the main character, happy, and of course to feed the algorithmic beast.
This creates a really dangerous confusion. The article suggests we mistake their participation, their tolerance of the lens being pointed at them, for genuine affection or approval.
Right. We confuse visibility, the sheer act of broadcasting the moment, with true connection. We expect praise not for achieving something great, but simply for being online, for keeping the camera rolling.
I think that confusion is actually central to platform addiction. We are fundamentally social creatures, and these platforms just hijacked our desire for connection by swapping it out with visibility metrics.
Okay, let's get to the analogy that really clarifies the isolation inside this crowd. The 37-follower cult.
This analogy is just a surgical strike on the ego. The article points out that most of us are essentially influencers with 37 followers, yet we maintain the mental framework of someone with millions.
Let's just ground this in reality for a minute.
Mm.
Imagine if you had a physical flesh and blood cult of 37 people.
Oh, God.
They follow you out the door, they wait outside the bathroom, they listen intently as you explain how you microwaved your leftovers.
If 37 people were tracking your every move, scrutinizing your breakfast choice, and waiting for your philosophical pronouncements on the weather, you would hire security. You would be deeply disturbed.
Absolutely. Yet we are literally carrying that cult, that attentive, expectant audience in our pocket 24 hours a day.
And the psychological weight of that invisible presence is what the article identifies as the fuel for this corrosive main character syndrome.
Even if only 3 of those 37 people engage, the potential for all 37 to be watching forces us into constant performance mode.
But hang on, if I have 37 followers, maybe those are 37 actual people who care about me, friends and family. Is calling it a cult too harsh if the audience is small and genuinely supportive?
That's a good question.
Well, I think the article's point isn't about the individual motives of the followers, it's about the psychological structure of the relationship to the platform. The platform is the cult leader. It demands constant devotion and offers these fleeting little bits of validation, likes, in return for your submission, your content. And by carrying that audience 24/7, you're internalizing that demand for performance.
Which makes the relationship inherently compulsory. That's the defining characteristic of a cult structure.
Exactly. The support is secondary to the performance required to maintain the relationship.
So the syndrome is inescapable. You never truly leave the stage, because the stage is the phone, and the phone is always with you.
And the moment the main character gets tired, they start mining their supporting cast for content.
Which brings us to the poor, overexposed dog.
Laughing. The dog's solo career segment is a perfect piece of tragicomic writing. It details the escalation of turning a loving pet into a content asset. The dog is tired of being content.
The dog has a bone to pick with you, not because you're a bad owner, but because, as the article says, the only way to get your full attention is through a screen.
That is so heartbreaking. The unconditional affection of the pet is now only accessible to the owner through the same digital lens they use for strangers. The reality is mediated.
We find ourselves, as the author states, cosplaying as NPCs, non-player characters, just passively observing our own living creatures doing funny things.
Observing them for the online confessional booth, not for ourselves. We're just waiting for the audience to render its judgment. Yay or nay, like or dislike.
The moment ceases to be self-contained. It's immediately outsourced for external validation.
And we should probably define that term for any listeners who might not be deep into gaming culture. An NPC, a non-player character, is basically a background element in a video game.
Right, an automaton whose only purpose is to serve the main character's narrative, maybe deliver a quest or just stand still in the marketplace.
Exactly. So the act of cosplaying as an NPC is this profound form of self-denial. We reduce ourselves to the passive observer, the camera operator, in our own life, just waiting to upload the footage so the real main characters, the viewers, can interact with it.
And the tragicomic end goal of the dog's career perfectly illustrates the toxicity of the whole content machine.
Right. The dog gets its own profile, then a career, then a sponsor, and then the inevitable.
Someone online complains that the dog is actually sexist.
Or racist, or somehow problematic. It's the ultimate proof that purity is not exempt from algorithmic critique.
Even the unscripted joy of a dog has to be formalized, monetized, and then inevitably subjected to the toxic churn of online judgment and manufactured outrage.
The moment the dog achieves digital fame, its actual spontaneous existence is over. It's now a persona that's open to cancellation.
And this endless cycle, it's not an accident. It's economically necessary for the platforms.
Which brings us to Section 3. It explores the roots of this phenomenon, the monetization of the universal human experience.
The article notes that life used to be simpler, right? We were just humans doing human shit. Shared experience was the norm.
Then platforms allowed for total visibility, and inequality exposed differences in wealth and lifestyle in a way that had never happened before.
And the platforms figured out how to capitalize on that exposure by learning how to churn envy.
Envy is the critical emotional resource. It drives the "I want to be that person" ad, which is invariably sold to you by influencers who are simultaneously performing aspiration and selling the tools, the clothes, the makeup, the diet that promise you can achieve that aesthetic.
Even if you can't achieve the underlying financial reality.
Right. And the platforms make sure that this fuel, this envy, keeps burning brightly by imposing the daily requirement. The algorithmic boss demands constant, relentless presence.
The requirement is multifaceted, isn't it? It's broadcasting every thought, no matter how fleeting, and showing up every day for things that traditionally should be a once-a-month event.
The pressure for constant visibility is insane.
Let's talk about the mechanics for a second, because the pressure is real. The article says if you falter, the platform punishes you. It relegates you to a second-tier citizen. How does that actually manifest for the average person?
Well, the algorithm is designed to reward novelty and frequency. If you take a day off, your reach decays almost instantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your carefully curated audience stops seeing your content, or it gets shown to them so late that engagement just plummets. This is often called shadow banning or just decaying relevance.
So the platform treats a 2-day absence as digital death.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To maintain your hard-won 37-follower cult, you have to obey the constant requirement to feed the feed.
And this requirement transforms every hobby, every passion, your painting, your cooking, the weekend hike, into a profession.
Into a profession that, in the author's cutting words, makes money and victims.
That's such a powerful phrase. A little bit of money, or at least affirmation for you, but an enormous amount of money and data for the platform owners.
And the author suggests this relentless pressure forces us to live within an unscripted script, a fake reality. It's the ultimate gaslighting effect.
The cameras aren't hidden, they're in our hands.
The dual consciousness required for this must be exhausting. The article gives us that brilliant visual again. One hand pets the cat, one films it.
You're split. You are simultaneously living the moment and directing the moment for submission to the boss.
And we tolerate this because we've seen so much manufactured reality. We know reality TV is scripted, but we still accept the label reality.
So we gaslight ourselves into believing that our own life has to be filmed, edited, and submitted to the platform to be authentic. If I didn't post my morning coffee, did it even really happen?
The performance becomes the existence. And the root of why we let this happen, why we submit to the algorithmic boss's impossible schedule, is just exhaustion.
Simple as that.
Absolutely. The author's diagnosis is sharp. We are mentally exhausted from rehearsing our lines to please our algorithmic boss.
The constant self-monitoring just drains our capacity for genuine action or critical thought. We are too tired to argue, so we just perform.
It's the ultimate energy transfer. We spend our creative and emotional capital on the rehearsal, and the boss profits from the submission.
And that exhaustion of performance leads us directly into this intense psychological conflict required by the attention economy, the relatability trap.
This is where the humor and the horror really reach their peak.
So what is the relatability trap?
It's this required paradox for any successful online persona. You have to be relatable, which means exposing your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, your failures. You know, the "I woke up like this, but I'm a mess" content.
Right. But at the exact same time, you have to oversell your strengths, your successes, your aesthetic perfection, your aspirational lifestyle, all to gain subscribers and win the constant fight for space and influence.
You have to be vulnerable enough to be human, but successful enough to be envied. And those two requirements are constantly pulling you in opposite psychological directions.
This sounds like mental whiplash.
It is. You're simultaneously trying to sell an unattainable product yourself while proving you're just like everyone else.
And if you stop trying to balance that act, if you don't post for one day, the system punishes you.
Yeah, the article emphasizes that our reality becomes fake because we're afraid of the consequences of being absent. We're afraid of losing reach, losing momentum.
Or worse, losing the attention of our 37-follower cult.
So you wipe your tears, you put up a front, and you show up anyway. But sometimes the external pressure is so great, or the demand for authenticity is so high, that the vulnerability itself gets rebranded as content.
The crying is the content. You come crying and you show it.
Which brings us to the central horror, the brilliant, agonizing joke that gives the essay its title, The Ultimate Performance Monetization.
Lay it on us.
The description is devastatingly simple. You are crying, but this raw, genuine, painful moment is immediately compromised.
Brought to you by Coke. Filming a second take because you should have said Coca-Cola as per your sponsorship agreement.
It's a truly painful image, isn't it? Because it instantly annihilates the authenticity of the moment.
It's not just a funny punchline. It captures the complete spiritual collapse of the performer. Your deepest vulnerability, your tears, your sadness, your mental struggle. It's not a moment for healing.
No, it's a missed opportunity for brand placement if you don't use the full registered trademark.
The commodification of the self is absolute. Your trauma is treated as a contractual failure if the product placement isn't perfect.
It proves there's no space left for non-monetized human experience. Everything, as the article later notes, from text to sex, has to be converted into an asset.
And once that emotional labor is submitted, the monetization just keeps going. You've cried your sponsored tears, but now you have to pivot because you also need to make money off those nice cookies you used to make just for fun on the weekend.
The hobbies must be professionalized. It's the obligatory transition from joy to content factory.
And the article concludes this section with this bizarre, almost daddy-its twist on virality, which I think is a profound commentary on visibility today.
Oh yes, the quote is, "You shouldn't have mixed the Coke and cookies. Gross, that's horrible, you just went viral."
Why? Why is mixing Coke and cookies suddenly the key to going viral?
Because the attention economy doesn't primarily reward quality or beauty anymore. It rewards transgression, absurdity, and shock factor.
Interesting.
When the market is saturated with polished perfection, the quickest route to visibility is often through committing a sin against taste or convention or basic human logic.
So grossness or intentional incompetence cuts through the noise faster than effortful perfection.
Exactly. We are incentivized to fail spectacularly or intentionally create bizarre, transgressive content just to generate engagement. The yay or nay votes from the audience. The grossness generates data, and the system rewards data above all else.
And we are obliged to keep participating, consenting to more exposure, more absurdity, just to stay relevant.
The author suggests that's the trap. We ease into this exposure because we're promised glamour and fame, but we're just feeding the beast with increasingly ridiculous acts.
And the demands on the performer are not limited to a single platform either.
No, not at all. The article details this obligation for constant, fragmented presence. It's not enough to master one platform, you have to master them all.
That's right. The author emphasizes that if you have a Substack, you have to connect it to YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Bluesky, TikTok.
The whole rotating cast of social services, posting every single day. And this required breadth of presence just fragments our attention and energy even further.
And this online presence, it carves a hook into you. It brings you back always hungry, angry, and horny, trapped in a coop.
Let's dissect that triple description for a second. That sounds less like a community and more like a state of digital desperation.
It is the primal state of digital dependency. Hungry for content, affirmation, novelty. Angry at what others have, at the system, or at the latest outrage.
And horny for connection, for visibility, or for the sheer rush of dopamine. It's a constant, dissatisfied craving that ensures you keep refreshing the feed, trapped in a feedback loop that the platform controls.
And this leads to the article's starkest, most uncompromising metaphor, the farm analogy. This is where the critique swings from humorous to genuinely unsettling.
The author pulls no punches here. It's a farm. We are just chickens. We are crack chickens. We are attention chickens.
Wow.
It's just a blunt assessment of our place in the digital ecosystem. We are not consumers. We are livestock being harvested.
Crack chickens.
Ugh.
It perfectly captures the frenetic, slightly desperate, and highly addictive behavior of refreshing, scrolling, and scratching for validation.
But the most painful part of this farm is the delusion.
The delusion that we're operating with autonomy.
Yes, we are the delusional chickens who think we're farmers while eating worms from the same place we pooped.
That is such a visceral image.
We think we're building our brand or leveraging the platform, but in reality, we're just consuming the waste product of the system, our own data, and calling it a meal.
And the cost of this self-delusion and relentless scratching?
Our sanity gets eaten as a nugget by billionaires. The transaction is laid bare. Our mental well-being, our attention, our data, everything that makes us human is converted into profitable units that fuel the platform owners.
We are essentially mining our own minds for the benefit of a tiny elite.
And this powerful imagery connects perfectly back to that enduring cultural critique from George Carlin, which the article so cleverly integrates.
Carlin's line from his 2005 special, Life is Worth Losing, was, "It's a big club and you ain't in it."
And the article modernizes that critique perfectly. The club doesn't just exclude us, it actively harvests us.
We aren't merely outside the gates looking in. We are the raw material being processed within the walls.
We are too busy generating content to realize we are the content itself.
Which brings us to the core transactional relationship, data and consent.
The article describes us as cluelessly consuming, being sold to, broadcasting, and being recorded, often with the tick box for consent as optional. We just click I agree without reading to get back to the feed.
And every fleeting reaction, every fear expressed in a tweet, every carefully edited picture, every vulnerability exposed, it's all online.
And the data machines are summarizing that information in seconds, understanding our psychological profiles better than we understand ourselves. It's all quantifiable data.
And this accumulation of data, this constant required submission, leads to the final painful diagnosis in this section. It's arguably the most powerful insight in the entire essay.
The author concludes, you haven't consented, you have Stockholm Syndrome.
That is a challenging diagnosis. Let's unpack that loaded term. Stockholm Syndrome, in its classic sense, describes a psychological response where hostages develop an attachment to their captors. How does the article argue our relationship with social platforms fix this definition?
Well, the author suggests the relationship is fundamentally emotionally abusive. The platform, as the captor, demands constant emotional and creative labor. It drains our sanity, fragments our attention, and robs us of genuine connection.
So the abuse is the constant psychological pressure, the demand for performance, and the punishment of absence.
Exactly. But this abuse is continually mitigated by small, fleeting rewards, the likes, the shares, the validation of our peers.
So the likes are the captor, providing a temporary comfort, a promise of freedom or fame tomorrow if you forgive today.
Yes. We are locked in the coop, but if we behave and perform, maybe, just maybe, we'll become the main character tomorrow.
The promise of fame, the dream of winning the attention lottery, keeps us from recognizing the fundamental toxicity of the exchange.
And we happily drift into this state because, as the article notes with some dark humor, science fiction is infatuating, and having a syndrome is Sue in this season.
It's just another layer of performance, a way to make our digital exhaustion feel glamorous.
So if we accept this diagnosis that we are exhausted, compromised, and suffering from digital Stockholm Syndrome, what's the ultimate societal consequence of this never-ending performance?
The article points to a profound paralysis.
The observation is stark. This environment has caused a sort of emotional and political climate change where cool became cold and cold became frozen.
The constant necessity of acting paralyzes genuine action.
Paralysis starves action while feeding the act. The author argues we can't effectively argue against war, we can't object against our own objectification, we can't seriously mobilize against our own demise because we're too busy performing our digital lives.
The mental real estate required for the production of self just leaves no space for meaningful critique or collective, real-world action.
It's the opportunity cost of the attention economy. We are so invested in the administrative load of our digital identity, maintaining the cult, pleasing the algorithmic boss, that descent, which requires concerted focus and risk, becomes impossible.
We are constantly on the verge of exhaustion, which prevents mobilization.
And the main character diagnosis comes full circle here. Everyone has main character syndrome because we are method actors in a movie that keeps demanding sequels year after year.
We've become method actors, blurring the lines between our genuine self and the character we've meticulously designed and optimized for the camera.
And the article notes the plot is weak, the story arcs are repetitive, and the actors are clearly struggling with their mental health.
Yet the show must go on, mandated by the platform owners.
And the ultimate sign that the performance has been totally internalized is what the article labels the sponsor mindset.
We see people next to us, filming themselves, selling products, looking into the camera and smiling, and we don't find it odd or intrusive anymore.
No, we internalize the belief that we also need a sponsor.
The need for a sponsor is so deeply symptomatic of our surrender to the system. A sponsor, in this context, gives external financial validation to the fact that the camera is always on.
It relieves us of the cognitive burden of pretending that we're doing this for connection or fun. It formalizes the act, and that justifies the endless performance. If I'm getting paid, then the exhaustion is tolerable.
So performance anxiety is replaced by a transactional mindset. The act of filming, from text to sex, becomes necessary.
A screenshot of a text message, a dramatic monologue, even intimate moments, it all becomes content.
The author suggests that the screenshot has become the POV of our deepest, most fleeting thoughts. The entire messy, spontaneous scope of human experience is converted into content, ready for submission to the feed.
There's no longer a private self, only a backlog of material awaiting its moment in the spotlight.
The conclusion wraps up the Truman Show analogy perfectly. We are not just Truman, passively observed. We take turns being the star, the cameraman, the scriptwriter, and the unwitting NPC.
We are all deeply involved in a show that should have been canceled a long time ago.
And the ultimate tragedy, the article laments, is that we forgot that humanity is not an act. We forgot the show only works if we keep acting.
And we forgot that we are absolutely not the billionaire show. We are the product being sold in the interim. The moment we stop acting, the machine loses a crucial source of energy.
What an extraordinary, layered, and deeply funny dive this has been. This piece, Crying, brought to you by Coke, article on Substack, manages to take some of the most frustrating, mentally draining aspects of modern life and translate them into a philosophical and surprisingly unifying critique.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the article successfully strips away the glamour of aspiration, the perceived freedom of broadcasting, to show the underlying mental and emotional transaction that fuels our digital lives.
Yeah.
It's a necessary look at the high cost of turning every genuine human moment into monetizable content for the algorithmic boss.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the mandatory performance of being human for Season 1, Episode 5. If this analysis resonated with you, if you found yourself recognizing your own stunt coordinator for pouring coffee moment, we strongly encourage you to support the author's work.
Please do.
Read the original essay, Crying, brought to you by Coke, by subscribing to the About Something publication on Substack. Seriously, consider a paid subscription. It supports independent, insightful writing like this that makes you think and laugh and question the absurdity of your own daily broadcast.
And as we leave you today, consider this final provocative thought derived from the material, focusing on that tension between action and performance.
If we are all paralyzed, method acting in a poorly scripted, uncancelable movie, what is the single, unfilmed, unedited, unmonetized thing you can do today?
Something that would genuinely feed humanity and not the act. And how can you defend that moment of authenticity from the temptation to post it?
Go do that thing. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.